Hey there, I'm Rod Yates, and you're listening to Humans of Music, a Jaxsta podcast. Each episode, I talk to an artist or music industry professional about their life and career, the ups and downs of their journey, and the lessons they've learned. And my guest today is NOFX frontman and co-founder of punk rock label Fat Records, Fat Mike. NOFX have just released their latest LP single album. It's the band's 14th studio record since they formed in LA in 1983, a time when Fat Mike was known simply as Mike Burkett and was cutting his teeth in the LA punk rock scene. As he explains in this interview, it was a violent scene where being stabbed at a gig was a common occurrence, but in punk rock he saw a family of like-minded misfits, a family he longed for following his parents' divorce when he was young. With his dad wanting little to do with his upbringing, Mike lived with his manicurist mum but was largely left to his own devices. And that is where punk rock came in. We talk about his entire career in this interview, and nothing is off limits, from his drug use to his love of cross-dressing and BDSM, from surviving the LA punk scene to the early days of NOFX, from founding Fat Records to the time his mother asked him to end her life. But we started by talking about NOFX's new record, single album. Does it get harder the deeper you get into your career to make a record, or does it get easier?
Well, it's weird because for me, writing new songs at this age is getting easier and easier in certain respects, which is strange. But I think it's because NOFX did that book, which is the tell-all. Once you put everything out there, writing songs about your very personal subjects seems to be easier. And this album was a very personal, dark album. I mean, what else am I supposed to sing about? I'm not going to sing anti-government songs. I did that. I've already done that. Now I have to sing. I have to dig deep into dark spaces. I think it's more interesting for people too.
Is there a song in particular where you went particularly dark or particularly close to the bone?
Well, on this album, there's a few dark songs. The last one, "Last Resort," was about my last relationship with my wife and how dark that relationship became. I mean, there's one song called "I Love You More Than I Hate Me," and just that lyric right there is hard to swallow. And in "Fuck Euphemism," you can't get much more personal than what I say in that song. There's a line where I say, "And then I did a line off Scarlett's $100,000 cunt," right? So I'm singing about doing a line of cocaine off a trans woman's man-made pussy, which is that's a personal line. That's kind of me coming out of the closet for being even weirder than people thought I was. And it's a difficult task too, because usually you put cocaine behind the clitoral hood and, to hold it up so you could do it. And in this case, there wasn't one. It's more like a smooth round surface, like a Volkswagen Beetle, trunk.
Right.
But yeah, this is personal stuff. These aren't sing-alongs.
No. And I guess, you just said then that a lyric like that shows the world that perhaps you're weirder than they think you are. But is weird the right word? I mean, if it's natural.
No, actually, yeah. Weird is not the right word. In fact, I just wrote a song called "Everybody Else is Insane," because the stuff I do it's not the norm, but I do whatever I want, and that's how everyone should live. And that's why I sing lyrics like that about cross-dressing and doing sexual things that aren't norm, because it makes other people comfortable doing that. That's why I do it. That's why I started cross-dressing in public. And I get so many notes through Instagram and Twitter with people saying thank you for this song, because it's given me the confidence to bring the subject up with my partner. And I've always wanted to do that. And it really warms my heart that my lyrics and songs are having a real connection with people.
Did you have a song or an artist who did that for you?
Well, sure. I mean, the most important record of my life was Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I heard when I was 8. It was the first music I ever listened to. And then Hedwig and the Angry Inch, and same kind of theme, but just living a life that you want to live. But I signed that band Propagandhi to my label, and after hearing one of their songs, I kind of felt like it was sung with me in mind, and I became a vegetarian after that.
Which song was that?
I don't remember the title, but it was just a political song about being vegan, and I never went vegan, but it hit me in the heart and brain, and I thought, I want to be a better person and more moral. And since I am a role model and a public figure, if I go vegetarian, then it'll affect more people, just like how they sung that song and it affected me. Definitely. So, it's not a band's responsibility to sing lyrics that will help society. But if you can, do it.
So you mentioned that the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I believe that there was one line or one lyric in particular from that which was really pivotal for you, and that was the line, "Don't dream it, be it." Did that become an ethos for you?
It did. I mean, I got the tattoo last year on my arm. But those lyrics, they inspired me, but they also haunted me because although I have lived the life I've always wanted to live, and, I got into the BDSM world and I pretty much do what I want to. Cross dressing was hard for me growing up in LA punk rock, where it was, you get stabbed if you dressed like a woman or feminine in the punk rock scene. So I was just scared of it. And it wasn't until I was 45 years old that I publicly cross dressed. And that was the day I felt truly free from societal mores. And I'm free. I'm doing everything I want. And yes, it was those lyrics, "Don't dream it, be it." I used to hear those lyrics and it'd make me not cry, but I'd always get teary eyed because I wished I wasn't such a coward. But now I'm not.
What happened at 45? Why that age?
I got together with a dominatrix, Soma Snake Oil, and over the years, she really liked me feminine. She liked having lesbian sex with me, and she would dress me, and she made me feel comfortable dressing in women's clothes. And so, and one night in Luxembourg, NoFX had a show, and I was wearing a pink slip in our hotel room, and I said, "I think I'm going to wear this tonight." She's like, "Seriously?" I go, "Yeah." And then we went to a really nice restaurant, and I walked down the street and played the show in it. And what was so cool is that I felt like I was a punk rocker in the early 80s again, because people were looking at me and they didn't really understand it. And I felt punk again, and I felt free.
And by the sounds of things, you also were accepted for it, which I imagine was a big thing.
I was, for the most part. It was funny because Lagwagon were playing with us, and the first thing, I walk into the backstage and their guitar player says, "What the fuck, Mike?" And I go, "What? I'm wearing a dress." He's like, "Well, it's weird." And then Joey, the singer of Lagwagon, said, "Shut up, Flip. I think you look cool, Mike." So it wasn't total acceptance. It's still not. People aren't comfortable with it. Some people.
Yeah, but you found peace in it, which is amazing.
Oh yeah, 2 days later, I went through Heathrow Airport wearing a dress, and it was so fun. What a cool experience.
Nice. We were talking about the fact that the new album is very personal, and some of it also sounds quite world weary. A song like The Big Drag, for example, it's got a couple of lines: "The human race is not worth watching or wagering on," and there's another one: "There's only a finite number of tomorrows, and it's not a lot, but it's all we really got." Where were you at when you were writing that song?
I wrote that about 2 years ago, and I faced depression for the first time in my life around then. I never understood what depression was because, I play in a punk band. I have a really cool life. But I was getting divorced. I was living by myself. And I didn't grow up with parents or a sitter or siblings. I was pretty much on my own. I mean, I had parents, but they were never there.
Mm.
So I faced loneliness in San Francisco, and I just drank a lot of vodka and did a lot of cocaine. That's when I wrote these songs, in the middle of the night, just in a sad place. And I also recorded these songs in the same state of mind. It was the first time I recorded an album on drugs.
Right. And that's because you're using the drugs to deal with the depression?
Yeah, I was using drugs for the wrong reasons. I've always used drugs and drank, but only, when I'm on tour or when a band's in town. I never used them in my daily life. And that's what changed.
How do you think that impacted the album?
Well, it made it more emotional. And after doing the Cokie the Clown record, which was, I think it's the most depressing album ever. And those are all true stories that I got to sing about. I mean, my wife, I got her out of a bathtub after she tried to kill herself. I found her just in time. And I'm singing about that shit. So once you sing about, the biggest tragedies of your life, you kind of want to keep going. You can't go back to singing party songs or songs about meeting a girl. Can't do it.
Mm. Does it become more liberating then? Because, you mentioned that Cokie the Clown album, and there's a song on there where you reference the time where your mum asked you to euthanize her. You can't get more personal than that. And that's something you've obviously continued with this record. Does the act of songwriting become more liberating as a result?
I think so, because I went to rehab about 3 months ago because I had an ulcer bleeding ulcer. I was puking blood everywhere. It was weird. And I learned something in rehab. A couple things. The first thing was the doctor said, you're not really an alcoholic drug addict. Your organs are fine. Problem is you don't know how to deal with things. So when you have issues, you go right to booze and drugs. And that's true. And it was during COVID, and I was stuck in a place where I couldn't deal with issues. And I learned a lot about that, how to change my perspective. So when I came out, I've written 40 songs in the past 3 months.
Wow.
I'm home. I have a studio, and I'm not running out of ideas, lyrical ideas, which is what the hardest part of songwriting is really coming up with a unique idea. Mm. There's no shortage. Being clear-headed right now and being stuck at home has worked out really well for me.
What were the person at Rehab told you that you don't know how to deal with your issues? What were the issues that you were turning to alcohol and drugs for?
Well, my divorce was very hard for me. I had what I like to call, true love. I had a true love relationship.
Is this with Aaron?
No, this is that was true love too. But when you think you found your soulmate and you have to break up for no other reason than you're just bad for each other, it just it was hard for me. Mm. And I was in San Francisco where most of my friends moved away. I was dealing with my band, which since COVID hit, a couple of the guys, they're not sure what to do. Mm. They have a lot of kids and no way to make money. And, it kind of falls on me. Being a label president and a band leader, a lot of responsibility fell on my shoulders. Like, Mike, what are you going to do? How are you going to fix this? You need to figure out how we're going to make money because we can't survive. And I'm hearing that from, 20 people. It's a lot of pressure I could not deal with. Mm. And, I try to be a good person and I try to help everyone. And that's one of the things they told me to rehab. Mike, you have to stop trying to save everyone because it's killing you, because you can't. And you need to take care of yourself first and then do what you can. And that's not what I was doing. What I was doing is trying to help everyone and doing a bunch of blow and coming up with ideas to make money. And it was like, it wasn't me. Hmm. I was scrambling to make money to help my band and to help other people. And it didn't work that way. We did that show Weekend at Fatty's, and I just tried so hard to help everyone. And it turned out to be really fucked up because, I used a lot. And actually, this was such a mistake. I can't believe I even did this, but I filmed a porno that night. After the show in my dungeon, there were 3 doms there, and I filmed an actual porn. It'll never come out, but I thought that was a way for me to make money because, it's desperate times. And even though I'm okay, most of my friends are struggling, and that's difficult to deal with.
Is this the first time, really, I guess, since the early 90s that it's been like this?
Been like what?
Well, this I guess it's desperate times. People aren't making money.
Absolutely. NOFX none of us have ever worried about money since, I would say, 93. Mm. And it's not something we ever thought we'd worry about because if we ever need money, we just play shows. And it used to be that we'd sell records, but you don't make any money doing records anymore. But who would have thought that you can't play shows anymore? Yeah. So, which you either just like get depressed or you pivot and do something else. Unfortunately for me, I had my musical Home Street Home. We were about to open in LA for a 4-month run at a great theater. And, we got shut down like everybody else. So I lost my ability to tour and my musical couldn't open. And, it was rough. But what did I do? I bought a building in Las Vegas and, now I'm opening a punk rock museum because it's a new idea. And I swear I've never been involved with a project that brings so much joy to my life.
In what way?
Well, I get to call people and ask if they have any artifacts. I get to call all these people from bands that I haven't talked to in years, and everyone wants to be involved. Punk rock is not like other styles of music. It is community. It's a lifestyle. It's a culture, and everyone's like, oh my God, a punk rock museum? Yeah, let me see what I have. And calling Jerry Only from the Misfits the other day, and he said he's going to give me all this cool Misfit stuff and Sid's boots. It was like, oh, rad.
That's crazy. Sid Vicious's boots.
Yeah, crazy.
How did he get them?
He was with Sid right before he died, him and Howie Pyro. And, he was going to put some stuff in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but he was like, no, Punk Rock Museum, I'm in. And he's like, I'm going to build the display cases and I'm going to drive them out. And this is from a hero of mine.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just exciting. And we got handwritten Necros lyrics, from the hardcore band from Maui. And I got Jerry A from Poison Ideas leather jockstrap. Cool shit. And, I'm calling people from around the world, other countries to help me curate stuff. And it's bringing joy to all those people too, because everyone is down because of COVID. And people have so much stuff in their basement or the garage. It's just sitting there. So when they hear about it, everyone gets excited. It's such a heartfelt, fulfilling, joyful project.
Nice. And is that typical of the community aspect that first appealed to you about punk rock?
No, I like the chicks that look like dominatrixes, and and I could join a band and without ever knowing how to play an instrument, and the danger. I mean, the LA punk scene wasn't really community; it was more of a battle zone.
Well, yeah. I mean, you've talked about the fact that the early LA 80s punk scene was punctuated by violence and there were real gangs running around within the scene. How dangerous was going to a punk rock show in those days in LA?
Well, every show was dangerous. It was a matter of, are you just going to get beat up or stabbed or, rat packed and hospitalized? And, that's why I ended up moving out of LA, because I went to see the Dickies at a club in Santa Monica and my friend got stabbed in the lung. And there was no reason. It's just we weren't from that area. And he was a football player, and he never played football again. And that's when I decided to go to college in San Francisco and not L.A. And, of all the scenes I've been around in the world, I've been to all of them. There was nothing even close to that, where it was terrifying to go to a show. But when you're 15 or 16, that was all I knew. You go to a punk show, there's going to be, 4 or 5 fights. And
how would you steer clear of them?
I have a way of talking my way out of things. I was asked to join 3 different gangs, the Lads, Suicidal, and FFF. And every time I'm like, no, I'm really not very tough. I probably shouldn't join a gang. I'm just going to stay independent. But I had friends in all these different gangs. And, and there were times, one time in particular, I was with 3 of my Suicidal friends. We were in Hollywood, and there were about 10 lads that walked around the corner. And everyone's like, oh, fuck. And I'm like, I'm just going to cross the street now because I'm not getting involved. And they weren't mad at me. One of them got beat up with golf clubs. But when you're not hey, guys, this is not my scene. You gang members deal with this.
Yeah. So what kept you coming back? I mean, if there was that real fear, that real danger, what kept you coming back week after week?
It's exciting. I mean, just going into a pit is dangerous in any country, anywhere. If you're going to go into a big pit, you could get hurt, you could get trampled. But once you find punk rock, especially when it wasn't big, when it was like your secret kind of music, and you were 15 and you took the bus to Hollywood, and this dirty nightclub like the Cathay de Grand would let you in the basement to see Social Distortion play on a 6-inch stage. Fuck yeah, it was worth the danger.
But you wrote in the NOFX book that you don't have any visible scars from those days, but you have demons. Do you still feel those demons?
Well, sure. I mean, I saw some terrible things on tour, and, I saw people's lives get ruined right in front of my eyes. But still, it's weird to not romanticize that period of my life.
I think that the first punk show that you went to, you were 14 and you went to see Killing Joke at the Whiskey. What do you remember of that night?
I remember all the details. Community FK opened. They were terrible. I just found a flyer for that show, by the way. I was supposed to go to a movie with my friend, and he goes, no, let's go to the Whiskey and see this band play. They're really good. So we went. I had a polo T-shirt on. I stood on the balcony. I was terrified. I wasn't even in high school yet.
Wow. And,
2 skinheads stood behind me, and they blew smoke on my neck. They were there to intimidate me, and I was. And my friend, he went into the pit. But I still was intrigued. I got their album, What's This For? Loved it. And 2 weeks later, I saw X and the Subhumans at the Whiskey.
What was that like?
It was awesome. That's when I realized, oh, this is my life. This is where I belong. And that was great. And then, and every week or 2, I'd see the Dickies or Oingo Boingo or Missing Persons or Bad Religion, and it was what a world.
Yeah.
And back then, I didn't know the difference between Oingo Boingo, the Plimsolls, the Go-Go's, and Black Flag.
Mm.
It was all, I saw all these bands play Hollywood, and I liked all of them. And like seeing the Go-Go's, because I loved the Go-Go's before I ever heard punk rock. And then I saw them, it was awesome. And then, a few years ago, Jane Weedland is tied up on my bed, in latex. Because my wife liked her, they liked each other, and oh yeah, how cool is that? Jane Weedland is one of the coolest people ever.
If your teenage self could have known what was going to happen decades on.
Oh yeah, or being in a blow up pool on the Warped Tour, getting high with Joan Jett. Fuck yeah!
Wow, that's so cool.
Joan Jett is actually kind of the coolest person in rock and roll ever.
Right.
Forget about the Runaways. When that song "I Love Rock and Roll" was on her own label on Blackheart Records,
right,
and it sold 10 million copies because no one would sign her. She fucking did it herself. Ugh,
that's so cool.
She's so nice to everyone, and she still rocks hard.
So while you were going to these punk rock shows, I know that your parents had split by this point, so you're living with your mother. Like, what were you telling your mum about these shows, or was she worried at all, or how did that work?
I'd come home with some bruises or limps, and what are you doing? Oh, I'm seeing some bands, and she didn't give a fuck. She was going out to discos, and when I was 11, my curfew was 11 p.m. at night because
right.
I'd take the bus to the beach and then come back and go to the arcade, and she wanted me home at 10:30. And I'm a kid. I'm in like 5th grade.
Yeah,
that's just how it was. It was like that since I was 7. I was on my own. My dad wasn't around, and my mom was a partier. That's just how it was. I didn't know any different, so that's just how it was. The only time I got in trouble was I got arrested in Hollywood once. We were waiting outside the Cathay de Grande, drinking beer in the alley. Personality Crisis were playing, and we were, getting our buzz on. And cops came in, and this guy, Bob Bonehead, he threw his bag of heroin in front of me.
Right.
And cops picked it up and said it was mine. And what am I supposed to say? No, it was his. I just said it's not mine. And, I got arrested. So my mom had to get me out of, they call it the Wilcox Hotel. That's what Fear calls it. Hollywood jail.
Right.
So then she forbid me to go to the Cathay de Grande anymore. But I was still allowed to go to the Whiskey or the Roxy. And I still went there anyway. I just told her I was going to the Whiskey.
Yeah.
And this is when I was 15.
And so are you happy at this point? Are you happy being this independent and being left by yourself? Or did you crave a little bit of parental guidance?
Funny you should ask that. But maybe it's why I like being with powerful women in leather, because I do need guidance. I need loving guidance from my partner. Like the lyrics on our new album, when I'm with NOFX or having bondage sex, I seem to function. When I'm alone, it's just self-destruction.
Yeah. And
that's very true. And I'm with a woman right now who I'm super into. We're having a really great love affair. And I'm sober, and she is. And, I can't get away with shit.
And that suits you? That's good?
It's very good for me.
Yeah.
She's also a yoga instructor. So, she makes me do yoga every morning, and we meditate. And, part of my meditation is getting wrapped up in something and, tied up where I can barely breathe. That's how I do my meditation.
And do you think that in some ways the ground, I suppose the roots of that stretch back to this fact that you were on your own as a kid?
I think so. I mean, I like doing so many kinky things. I'm all over the place because I like to experience life. I would say I'm a sensation junkie. But when it comes to bondage, which is like my favorite thing, I think it's kind of like adult swaddling. I feel safe when I'm bound and can't see. I don't know. Maybe I'm autistic. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the smell of leather, of rubber sheets and a leather blanket. And when I get into bed at night, I'm happy. I'm at peace.
After the break, Mike talks about the mid-90s punk rock explosion, his friendships with Tony Sly and Steve Soto, and the time his mother asked him to end her life. Welcome back to Humans of Music and my interview with NOFX frontman, Fat Mike. You fast forward a few years from going to see these shows and you actually decide to form your own bands. You form PTA and False Alarm, and neither go anywhere really, and then you formed
You did your
NOFX
research, dude. You did your research.
right, and then you formed NOFX in 1983. What was your hope when NOFX came together?
It's just what you do. If you're a punk kid, you start a band or a fanzine, or you become an artist. Why wouldn't you? Because you don't have to be a musician. I was hoping to get laid a little bit, get a girlfriend. Actually, getting laid was never my thing. I'm kind of monogamous. I like getting a girlfriend. And me and Eric Melvin became best friends, and skateboarded every day. It wasn't just starting a band. It was really starting a family. And NOFX are my family. Fat Records is a family too, and my daughter, and ex-wives who I'm still close with.
And you sing about that on the Cokie the Clown album, I think it is. And it's, again, comes back to what we were talking about earlier. You found a family in these, you kind of had to make a chosen family as opposed to having a birthright family.
Right. And chosen families are, I would say, generally better anyway, because your biological family, who cares? I mean, sometimes you might get good parents or a good sibling, but if you can choose your family, you choose people who, you share values and common interests. And chosen family is just important. That's what, my musical, it's what Home Sweet Home's about, is kids who came from terrible families and started a family.
Yeah.
It's probably why I wrote that musical, because that's what I had to do. And, I tend to write songs that are not very flattering to my parents.
Do you think that Home Street Home show will actually happen after COVID?
Oh, yeah. Right now, I'm actually talking to 2 huge producers, and we're turning it into a TV show.
Oh, cool.
And that looks like it's going to happen. I can't talk about it any more than that. We'll see.
That's cool. So after you formed NOFX and you did your first tour in 1985, I think it was 4 dates. What did you learn from that first experience on the road?
It was Reno, Ashland, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, and then Boise, Idaho. It's funny. I was just in Ashland 3 days ago visiting Kent, our manager. What I learned was that, I'm doing this from now on. I was still in high school when we toured for the first time, and after high school, I'm like, I'm going to college. I'm Jewish. You kind of have to go to college if you're Jewish. You don't have a choice. But every summer and every winter, I'm going to go on tour with my band, because this is the greatest thing ever. It doesn't matter if there's 20 people there watching us. I get to travel the country with my buddies, and we get to drink and skateboard and meet people and play music and hopefully get laid. And the funny thing is, I got laid twice on that first 1-week tour out of 4 shows. I'm like, this is great. I thought 50% was a pretty good ratio. And then I went on a 2-month full U.S. tour, and I still got laid twice. So it was the number 2. It wasn't 50%.
Well, you've spoken about the fact that in the first years of the band, you weren't that great by your own admission. And I think you said for the first few years when you tour interstate or into different parts of America, the audiences would get less rather than getting more. How did you not get discouraged?
Yeah, I didn't say we weren't great. We were terrible. We would be probably the worst band every night. It was discouraging, but what else are you going to do? I mean, am I supposed to spend the summer at the beach? No, I want to be touring. Because even though people didn't like us very much, we stayed at people's houses, and we'd see the same people every year. And, we saw our friends. We got to see tons of good bands. I mean, back in the mid-'80s, we got to play with Descendants and Agnostic Front and Social Unrest and SNFU, RKL, Bad Religion. Like, great bands. We got to play with them.
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck wouldn't want to do that? Because we weren't good, it didn't matter. In the mid-'80s, most punk bands were pretty fucking bad. It was confusing then. Everyone was playing hardcore. Our first trip to Europe, that was the only time when people really disliked us. And one night the crowd turned on us and threw bottles and firecrackers. We had to fight the crowd.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really weird. We were so bad that the opening band, Drowning Roses from Germany, we asked them to start headlining, and which they did. That didn't work out either. But that's the only time I think maybe NOFX is not right for me. And I thought I want to be a roadie for Operation Ivy.
Yeah.
Because I just got their 7-inch and it fucking blew my mind. But, but then again, I got Suffer. I heard Suffer from Bad Religion on the last show, played with Fugazi, and that record changed everything. It was, the most amazing record for the time. And it reminded everyone how great punk rock can be.
Right. And it just set you on the course of what you wanted NoFX to become?
Sorta. I'd written one good song before that, which was S&M Airlines.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I started to get into melody, and then I heard Suffer, and then I wrote the album S&M Airlines, which is, our first melodic album. Although the singing is quite out of key and pretty amateur, it was the first time that we had decent songs.
The great thing about that is that you had the time to evolve. A lot of bands, they'll get together and they expect success straight away, or they get a bit of success and they don't get that opportunity to evolve. But you had this incredible opportunity to suck for a couple of years and get good.
Right. And luckily in punk rock, you could do that. And it was actually hard for us. It was a 15-year overnight success.
Mm.
And our early records were so bad that people didn't like us. And, if you look at the book American Hardcore, we weren't included. It really pissed me off. There were some fanzines that we were never in because people just thought we kind of sucked and they didn't want to interview us. A band like Pennywise, their first album on Epitaph was awesome. So they didn't have anything against them. We had to swim upstream and prove to people that we got better. And we got better gradually. And, which is really cool. Every year we got a little more successful. It was always exciting. The first time we sold out a club was in Oberhausen, Germany, or Whitesburg. It was a 300-seater, and people knew our lyrics for the first time in my life. It was incredible.
Yeah.
What a feeling.
Absolutely. And then I guess that starts to coincide with possibly just before the period where alternative music starts to explode. Nirvana released Nevermind. Several years later, The Offspring released Smash and Green Day released Dookie. How do you remember feeling as the scene was exploding around you?
Well, it differed for different bands. When Nirvana broke, everyone remembers where they were the first time we heard Teen Spirit. Mm. I was in my Volvo with Joey Cape. He played it for me. And it was great. It was the first band, in my mind, that was good, that got popular. And then I was so happy for my bros in Green Day when they got big, because of course they should get big. They're the best band around. Crappy bands like, I don't know, Pearl Jam or Smashing Pumpkins or Chili Peppers. What the fuck is that crazy music? But Green Day were cool, and we played tons of shows with them, and they rode on our bus. Like, we did a show in Denmark, in Copenhagen, at a squat. And it was NoFX, Green Day, Offspring, and Lagwagon opening. And so when my friends got popular, I was just happy for them. And it's also, 94 was the year that I convinced NoFX not to make videos, not to sign a major. And we didn't do interviews for 8 years. And it was because I realized we would never be a band like that. I would never write songs like that. I didn't want to have to write songs to impress kids or radio. I want to write songs that I want to write about. And also, what I told NoFX is, listen, you guys, we're making a great living. We just put out a great album. And are you happy? Is everyone in this band happy? And everyone's like, yeah. And we were happy every day. We loved our lives. And I said, why fuck with happiness? Because if you're happy, you know what? You can't get happier. I mean, the goal is happiness, not more happiness. Being happy is all there is. And I thought trying to get big would give the opportunity or the chance of being unhappy. Because what if, we put out a record on a major and we're called sellouts? What if we don't have a hit? What if things go badly? Or you get popular and then you lose it all. Hmm. And, bands like Jawbreaker, who signed to a major and lost everything, it's a great example. They were, one of the biggest DIY bands, went to a major, and their careers were over. Hmm. Came back now, 25 years later or whatever, but I wanted to be happy for my whole life. And Noah agreed with me, and we don't have to see how big we're going to get. Let's just enjoy this fucking ride.
And is that purely instinct-based for you to have that perspective? Because there must have been opportunities thrown at you. I know you've spoken about being courted by Hollywood Records. You had people after you, but you had the instinct to know that that wasn't for you. Where do you think you got that?
It wasn't instinct. It's just intelligence. And it was 4.5 months of NoFX talking a lot and seeing like, oh shit, Rancid just did Saturday Night Live and Offspring just, sold 3 million. What are we going to do? And I didn't know what to do. Because although I was happy for my friends, I was totally jealous. Why are these bands getting so big? We're that good. and I realized we would never be that band. So it wasn't instinct. Instinct was let's compete. And once I said no, let's not do that because I want a long career. I want a long, happy career. It wasn't instinct. It was just thinking it through.
Right. Did it make you wary? I mean, you must have seen bands arrive on the scene all of a sudden. Were you wary of what was happening with the second generation and third generation of bands that must have been coming through?
No, I'm actually very supportive. Like I befriend bands like that. When Sum 41 got on the Warped Tour, I invited myself on their bus and spilled beer. I welcomed them to the Warped Tour. I actually give them a big bag of Coke too. And My Chemical Romance, Black Parade is one of my favorite records. What I don't like is new bands that act like assholes and think they're all that. Like Sum 41, they were on the Warped Tour and Kevin used to make them play at noon all the time. And, they just sold 1 million records and they didn't complain. They just fucking were stoked to be on the Warped Tour and to be meeting cool bands. So I have nothing against newer punk bands that have success. And we see them come and go constantly. And, thank God that we've been able to keep our fan base and still be relevant. This record cycle and doing interviews, one thing that just really makes me so tickled is that interviewers like our new album. And more than like it, they're like, it's different. It's still NOFX, but it was a surprise that not a surprise, but you guys constantly surprise me by doing something different and new. And that keeps you from being a nostalgia act.
And that's obviously clearly important to you.
Oh, it's so important to write new songs, go in different directions, new lyrics, new chord progressions. Yeah, because I don't want people to yell our old songs. And that doesn't happen. Like Sing Double the Triple Rock. We can't play a set without people yell that song. People yell songs from our newer albums.
Right.
Which is what you fucking want.
And very early on in NOFX's career, you kind of took the role of, the leading role of the main songwriter, booking the early tours, the chief fan loader. So you've always been the driving force. And that's true as well of Fat Records, the label you started in 1990 with your ex-wife, Erin. And obviously she's a driving force with that as well. But there's clearly a drive and determination to what you do. Where did you get that, do you think?
Oh, shit. I really don't fucking know. I've never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I never thought of being successful. I still don't. I know what success is. Success is being happy. And I realized that very young. Went to college, went to real estate school. Anything I could do to make money so that I could play punk and have kinky sex. Because that's what it's all about, is living your passion. It's not about having the best job in the world.
Yeah.
But what gave me the determination? Fuck. I don't know. Maybe it's because I was such a loner when I was a kid that I have to prove something. I definitely have to prove something. I don't know why.
Do you think you've proved it yet?
Nope. When my musical gets done and the punk museum gets built, I'll be closer.
Right.
I do think I've proved that NOFX are I don't know what to call it. We're a punk band. We're a for real punk band that flies the flag.
Yeah. What has it taken to keep NOFX together? Because you've been through a lot, individually and as a band. There have been substance issues. There have been all sorts of stuff that you've each individually and as a group had to deal with, but you are still around. What has it taken to do that?
Well, nothing if you have a band with fucking cool people in it. Why would we not do this? It's a joy to record and play shows. I mean, sometimes playing shows gets a little weird in Australia when people throw fucking boomerangs at your fucking head. But why would we not do this? The problem with bands is that, they go up and down, and when things are down, they blame each other. And also, we're very lucky because I write all the songs, so there's never egos battling, which is what happens in most bands. You go with the best songwriter. You go with the best guitar player. Some bands have two great songwriters, Bad Religion or Rancid or, Beatles. We have me and, Eric Melvin's written a little bit. LFA wrote a little bit. And they're just like, why? Mike's got it.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah. And NOFX, I could count the band fights we've had, with 3 fingers.
That's pretty amazing.
It just doesn't happen.
That's no bands could say that. I don't think any bands could say that. That's pretty incredible.
Well, you know what? The guys in my band, they're fucking cool dudes, and we're brothers, but we don't fight like brothers.
Mm.
The only time things have gotten a little weird is during COVID, because a couple of our members, well, no one expected this, and times are getting tough.
Can you see a way out of that, do you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll figure out a way out of anything. That's what we're doing. We're already recording a new album.
Yeah, right.
And that's a way out of it right there. I'm gonna figure out a way to support my brothers and for everyone to make a living, even if we can't play. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, and I guess it comes back to that idea we were talking about earlier of chosen family. And in the past, you've been quite matter-of-fact about your parents passing and how that impacted you. But you seem to have been hit harder by the death of two close friends who you've paid tribute to in song. I'm talking about Tony Sly from No Use for a Name, who you paid tribute to in the song I'm So Sorry, Tony, from the album First Ditch Effort. And also Steve Soto from the Adolescents, who you sing about in Grieve Soto from your new album. What is it about those two guys that touched you so deeply?
Well, it was different. Steve Soto was a hero of mine, and just the nicest guy in punk rock, and a good friend of mine. I miss him, and he was just the guy in punk rock that you wanted to be friends with. Lived up to everything for being an idol of mine. Tony Sly was devastating to me because he was one of my best friends, and it was just such a shame. And gosh, I 4 or 5 times a year, I'm in tears listening to No Use or his songs. It's just different. He was my chosen family. We toured so much. He was such a big part of Fat Records. Our daughters are best friends. That was just rough.
Mm. And addressing both those passings in your lyrics, has that helped you?
No, hasn't really helped me.
Okay.
I just thought both of those people deserved a song because they were both on my mind a lot.
Yeah. Fair enough. There was the song on the Cokie the Clown album as well, That Time I Killed My Mum, which we spoke about briefly earlier, and the fact that
good title, right? Good title.
Incredible title. And I guess that's one of the things I've always admired about you is that you don't hide behind metaphor, certainly in this stage of your career.
Hey, fuck euphemism. Fuck euphemism.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's such a personal thing to put out there into the world, the fact that she asked you to euthanize her and the fact that you attempted to do it anyway. I mean, what was that moment like when it came time to do that?
Well, like I said, if I had to do it again, I would have just put a pillow on her face right away, done it Tony Soprano style in 5 minutes. And it took so long that it was horrible. But doing it was, it's what you do. It wasn't weird. It just seemed natural because, she asked me, and I say it in the song. I recorded that song like 2 months after she died in 2006. I was never going to release it. And I just wanted to write it and sing it. And then when I did the Cokie album, I thought it deserved to be on there. But, because I thought it's important to sing that song. So if someone is in that situation, they'll think it's all right. Because it's not only all right, it's what you fucking do.
But it must have been terribly hard.
Sure. But yeah, it was hard. But my mom asked me to do this favor for her, more than a favor.
Mm.
How could you say no? If you said no, then you are a coward. You are a small man or woman. I can't do that. It's against the law, or the Bible tells me not to. Fuck you. When a dear friend or a loved one asks you for help, you do it.
So just before we finish up, just last two things. You're now 54. NOFX have just released their 14th studio album. Fat Records continues to this day. Will you be doing this until you die, do you think?
Writing songs, yeah. And I don't see why NOFX would break up, especially if we keep our hairlines like we have. And punk bands don't break up. They die. They actually die.
Mm.
The Ramones, I think the Ramones are the first rock band that all just died from old age. Some kind of old age condition. At least I'm the youngest member of NOFX. That's something cool.
That's it. And so very last thing, Mike, Jaxsta is all about giving credit where credit is due. Are there people that you would give credit to for helping you get where you are today?
Too many to mention. So many people. so I'm not going to make a list.
That's okay. Maybe if I frame the question differently, was there anyone in the early days who mentored you?
Brett Gurewitz from Epitaph and Bad Religion was my first mentor. He didn't mentor me. I made him my mentor. I just, he's still my favorite songwriter. He started Epitaph, which is how I modeled Fat Records. And he was my mentor. Mm. And I pay attention to what people do. And I learned more from the record industry and the music industry what not to do. That's how I built Fat Records and did my band. My band and our crew are good, nice people. My record label, we do one record deals. We've never fucked a band over. We put out records because we think they're good, not because we're going to make money, or sometimes both. Anyway, I've learned through experience of what not to do more than what to do.
Right. Okay. And lastly, you mentioned Brett Gurewitz from Epitaph. Is it true that you actually did work experience at Epitaph when you were young?
Yes. It's so funny. Well, barely, but he doesn't remember. But during spring break, I was in LA, and he asked me to help him get magazine subscriptions. So I had to call these magazines, and then records came in: NOFX, S&M Airlines, and Bad Religion, No Control. And I saw all the companies he was working with, and I helped put stuff in the closet because there was no warehouse then. And Epitaph's first employee, Jeff Abarta, I was there in the room when he interviewed him.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a week. It was 1 week of experience. And I also worked for CD Presents, which was a label and a distributor in San Francisco. But yes, I did work for Epitaph for a week.
Wow. And it sounds like it was a pretty good time.
Not really. But,
All right, Mike, look, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for the interview. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. I really appreciate it. And the new album's fantastic. So I look forward to hearing this next one you're working on.
Thank you very much.
Take care, mate. Thank you. Bye. And that's it for another episode of Humans of Music. A big thanks to Fat Mike for his time, and thank you for listening. This episode was mixed by Lachlan Mitchell from Parliament Studios in Annandale, and the incidental music and theme song were written and performed by Sam Lockwood. Please remember to subscribe to the Humans of Music podcast so you never miss an episode, or even better, share it amongst your friends and rate and review it. And remember, next time you need to know who wrote a song, who produced a song, who engineered it, who played on it, who sang on it, who did anything on it, head to Jaxsta.com for all your official music credit information. Until the next episode of Humans of Music, I'm Rod Yates. Thanks for listening.